Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Dementia Chats. If you have not been with us before, I'm sure you're going to enjoy the conversation. It is March 8th, 2016, and all Dementia Chats are recorded, and you can have access to those live. I'll probably get this posted tomorrow realistically. To just let you know why this was started was basically I'm a firm believer that we need to hear the voice of those that are actually diagnosed. They have brilliant insights. They're the ones living with the disease, and we have to stop as a community, as families, as a society as a whole, thinking that we're, peeking through the window and we have all the answers. When we have people we can ask questions to and enter brilliant conversations and really find out what are the true needs, what does it really feel like, instead of guessing. That's going to help us remove a lot of the stigmas and learn to live with this disease better, learn to help them live with this disease better, and as a community and society as a whole, come to some kind of acceptance and ways to truly support this new community that's been around for a long time but is finally starting to get some attention now and some groundwork. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Lori LeBay. I'm the founder of Alzheimer's Speaks, and I started Dementia Chats, exactly why I said, and this all comes from my mother having dementia for 30 years. So more than half of my life, I observed this disease. I learned to try to live with it as gracefully as I could, and came out, I guess, the other side with insights of true joy and a heightened level of relationships, which is my goal with Alzheimer's Speaks, to raise everyone's voice and to try to get them to find peace and joy in terms of living with a disease that, we wouldn't wish on anyone, but it's here. And so, my feeling is we have to learn to live with it. So I'm going to go ahead and have everybody introduce themselves. And Paulan, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Paulan Gordon. I live in Cincinnati. I was diagnosed with vascular dementia 4 years ago at age 57. Currently, I'm very involved with the Dementia Mentors mentoring program, and I participate in any opportunity I can to advocate for the cause.
Great. Thank you, Paulan. And Harry, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Harry Urban. I live in Pennsylvania. I was diagnosed with dementia of the Alzheimer's type 12 years ago. I created several Facebook groups under the banner of Forget Me Not, and I also have a blog that I write my daily thoughts in called mythoughtsondementia.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, Harry. And next we will go to True. True, do you want to introduce yourself?
My full legal name is Truthful Loving Kindness. My current diagnosis is mild cognitive impairment. As the doctor said, I've got 1 foot in each door. I blog. I'm very involved with Dementia Mentors, and now I'm getting involved with Dementia Action Alliance, and I gather together stuff that other people, projects from people with dementia.
Okay, great. And these three brilliant people are going to be our experts today. They are all, as I said, diagnosed with the disease. And then we have Elan, who assists me with these chats. Elan, you want to let people know a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Elon Caspi. I'm a gerontologist and a dementia behavior specialist. I have a company called Dementia Behavior Consulting. And I'm here to help Lori with this great program, and also to, first, and foremost, to learn from the lived experience of people who actually live with the disease, and share where I can about what I learned in my 22 years in the aging field. So I'm looking forward for this session today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be here. Again, feel free to share this webinar session with anybody, because I know you're going to find some brilliant insights. We've talked about topics today and what to discuss, and we've decided that there's a lot of confusion. What we're all seeing and are in agreement with is what's the difference kind of between dementia-friendly communities and what we've heard about dementia villages. And so we're going to get insights from our experts in terms of what they're seeing in terms of the confusion and the definitions, and maybe figure out how we can come up with some better clarity for people who are struggling with that. So Paulan, I'm going to throw it to you first. You're going to be my target because you're in the upper left corner there. So.
Okay, well, one of the things that comes to mind when I think about dementia-friendly communities is the importance of having, first of all, having our input into that situation. And also one of the things that I specifically am concerned about is I'm having a great deal of trouble with money, so paying for things. So it would be really good if there was a system whereby you had maybe just a debit card or something, and it was all honest, and you just, would make sure you were getting the right prices and your right change.
Okay. Now, when you hear about the differences between dementia-friendly communities and dementia villages, what are your thoughts between the differences between the two that you see?
Well, I'm not real clear about what the difference is.
Okay.
So I'm just not real clear. I'm anxious to hear what other people say the difference is.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it to Harry next and say, what do you see the differences are? And then we'll go to True. And then Elon and I can kind of throw in our 2 cents worth as well. And we'll see if we can kind of sort this all out. Okay?
I think dementia-friendly villages are designed by people that don't have dementia, and they design these villages for what they think we need. And I think with dementia villages, I think the people living with dementia have more say in what the community is and what it is. Everybody has their own concept of what dementia-friendly means. And it's day and night between somebody that doesn't have dementia and somebody with dementia knowing what we need. I mean, a lot of times they'd like to put a lot of bells and whistles into a dementia-friendly community that we're not capable of using. And
can you give an example of that, Harry?
Yeah, well, if you talk to anybody, what's the main thing you would like to see in a dementia-friendly village? It's okay, safe sidewalks, street corners that are accessible, things of that sort, which is nice. We do need that, but there's so many other things that we need in a dementia-friendly village. We need benches where we can walk, benches, little parks, whatever you want to call them, that we can sit down and just enjoy the day. We don't have to always be going from point A to point B. We can make a stop in between and relax and enjoy ourselves. I think we need more outdoor things, outdoor parks and things of that sort. Now, of course, you can't build one of these inside a big city because that's not feasible. But you have to find an area that we can wander safely. We can walk, that we don't get lost. And people have to know each other so they can look out for each other. So if they see Harry from the next block over lives over there, and he's over here by the pond, that may not be a good thing. That type of thing.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say are some things that I think our communities as a whole have gotten away from in terms of knowing your neighbor and what their needs are, and helping one another out without being paranoid you're going to get into trouble if you say something or assist somebody.
I think everybody thinks of a dementia-friendly community, of some place that caters to our physical needs. And from my point of view, I look at it as a community that caters to my emotional needs, living with this disease.
Okay, wonderful. I like that. I like that difference. Or actually, would like to see the combination of the two myself. True. How about you? What are your perceptions of dementia-friendly community versus Dementia Village?
Well, I think of a Dementia Village as like one of my friends lives somewhere that everyone that lives there has dementia of some type, and they have a place where they can buy groceries, a place where they can get their hair done. There's different businesses there that are strictly for dementia people, and it is a location strictly for dementia people. That is my perception of a Dementia Village. Whether it's correct or not, I don't know. My perception of dementia-friendly community is a community that has chosen to orient the way they do business, the way they do community, to make a person with dementia and often other disabilities feel very welcomed and part of the community. For me, one of the big things on that would be communication, because in my perception, most professionals, even dementia professionals, either don't have the time, don't take the time, or don't have the tools to actually communicate with the person with dementia. Instead, they end up communicating with the partner, communicating with the family or other people that are around the person with dementia, instead of being able to take the time and learning the tools to speak slowly, have pauses between paragraphs, use body language, big time use body language, different things on communication that they are either not aware of, don't have the time, or don't care to take the time. And that, to me, would be the biggest thing for dementia friendly. And that requires people with dementia input, big time input from people with dementia symptoms.
Okay, great, thank you. Elan, do you want to tell us what your thoughts are? You're very active in the community as well.
Well, there's a couple of things. One is, I think that both concepts are emerging. I think that a lot of it is up to us what it's going to become. It's evolving. We have Acton Alzheimer's in Minnesota with many committees and doing wonderful work to, you know, increase the likelihood that Minnesota will become dementia friendly in all the ways that were just described and other ways. And I think it's a fabulous concept, and it's now being adopted nationally. And then you have dementia villages. Now, I personally, all I know about dementia villages is, you know, that there is, for example, dementia village in Hogeveen near Amsterdam, and Dr. Sanjay Gupta did a CNN program about it. But what I really think, I'm personally not sure. I may have missed the early conversation. I came up late in the pre-session today, but I'm not sure what's the rationale for comparing the two. What I see is that a dementia village should be dementia friendly. And that means the input from people with dementia and all the components that we know and still need to learn about. And it needs to be, so in and of itself, it needs to be dementia friendly, but then it needs to be embedded within a dementia friendly community. So I'm not sure what the rationale for the comparison, but each one of those entities needs to have all those things that we know and still need to learn about to make, to compensate, to understand and compensate for the cognitive and other disabilities of people with dementia. From training everyone in the community or training everyone inside the village and the physical environment, the safety issue, the noise, the lighting, the emotional needs, the input, etc. So yeah, I'm just, I don't have a lot to say about it, to be honest.
Okay. Go ahead, Harry.
I think a big difference, Elon, is with the dementia-friendly village. That's a secured area. Okay. Now, with dementia-friendly, that's just catering to our needs. Like every town, every city, big, small, little, can be dementia-friendly. But they cannot be a dementia village. That's my perception of the difference between them.
Sure, and one of the things they tried to do in Hogaway is that instead of having the secured unit, I'm not sure about the detail, but it sounded from the CNN program, it's all available online, that the entire community of the village, the entire village is secured.
Right.
There's many elements that are dementia friendly in it. So people cannot, or supposedly they're not in the complex, but they may be able to leave the particular care home. I'm not sure about that, but that seems to be the case.
I cannot wander away from a dementia village, but I can in a dementia friendly.
Well, one hopes that the elements of security that they have in the perimeter of the complex are effective. We know that you know better than anyone as the people with dementia look like everybody else. Mm-hmm. So we've seen many times in nursing homes that people with dementia will walk out because a visitor or a person who works in maintenance doesn't just think that this is actually a family member who is visiting a person who lives there, and they just walk out. Mm-hmm. So that's a major issue. So I hope they have good security measures at the perimeter, but it does give some level of enhanced level of freedom, if you will, as opposed to the secured locked unit that there's a lot of criticism, and it's coming into question, including Dr. Ellen Power, who said we're congregating people with dementia in units, 30, 40 of them, and then without training, without the physical environment that is dementia friendly, and without the activities that are meaningful and purposeful, and then all the problems begin, and then we're surprised, and then medication starts, and all. But I'm going to stop here, but there are people who question seriously the idea of congregating people with dementia in one space. And I also heard others who actually support that. And if it's done in a small scale, in a very thoughtful way, very home-like way, it can be done, but not this 40-person model of locking people up and expecting for the good without providing the resources and infrastructure to care for them well.
One of the things I think that should be taken into account too when constructing these villages is that the people in different stages of the disease are somewhat together, so that you don't have people at the end stage all mixing in with the people at the early stage. And I think not only is it just depressing, it's you can find more activities for the people who are in the early stage, and they need that activity level. So that's one of the points that I would like to see taken.
Can I relate to this real quick?
Sure.
So there are a lot of people who think we need to do the staging, early stage, mid stage, late stage, or somewhere early until somewhere in the middle stage and middle until late. But we also have different types of dementia, and each one is somewhat different. So that's another piece. And it's not only dementia; there's other conditions. But so there are advantages of bringing people on the same level of cognition together, because then you can plan activities that are more suitable, and there's certain behavioral expressions that are handled, should be handled in a certain stage and not in others, and there are different challenges at each stage. But then there's the concern of grouping people in the same stage and putting a label on them. Oh, they're advanced dementia, and therefore X, Y, and Z. So we have to be careful of classifying people, putting them in a category. And then you have people, I don't want to quote him, but Dr. Ellen Power actually says that, you know, we need to build communities where people accept each other. You know, we can, you know, a lot of people, older people don't like to be with those who are cognitively healthy, don't like to be with people who are cognitively impaired. But at the end of the day, we're all interdependent, and tomorrow it's me. So how can we create this compassion? How can we instill this compassion that we accept and actually help others instead of, you know, running the risk of driven by fear? Oh no, I can't be with people in mid-stage because X, Y, and Z. Because tomorrow it's me, or tomorrow it's my spouse, or my friend, or my neighbor. So how can we instill this compassion that we actually have to create helping communities and volunteering for one another? In fact, some of the most compassionate acts I've seen in many nursing homes is actually between people with dementia. Mm-hmm. It's also the flip side of it, of course, and there's altercations and there's negative interactions. But some of the most compassionate things occur between people in early stage who are advocating fiercely and rightfully for people in later stages. So that's a beautiful thing. And then there's friendships that we need to nurture. And anyways, I just wanted to, there's different views about these issues. It's not so straightforward.
True, go ahead.
I think another aspect is when you start experiencing the dementia symptoms yourself, it gives you greater insight for communication with those that have very advanced symptoms. And I know of several of my friends that have been in circumstances with very advanced, with people with very advanced dementia, and been able to communicate very thoroughly with them, to the total surprise of staff. In fact, one of my friends was told, no, you can't have any interaction with her. You are not a professional. But she was succeeding in getting this other person to speak and communicate, and they had not been able to do that in weeks, but she was forbidden to do so. She was another patient, and so she couldn't have that kind of she had been a nurse. That was her occupation, but she couldn't, at any rate, you guys know what I'm trying to say, and I'm getting scrambled.
I really want to make a real quick point. Dr. Ellen Power gives a great example. To your point, true. He says that there is a community. I forget the name right now. I can find it later in his second book, I believe. He said that there's a community, a care home for people with dementia, and they're so advanced thinking that they're actually putting people with dementia. I know for you it's basic, and that's what you're advocating every day, and that's what should be the case. They're putting people on dementia on hiring committees. So there's a person with dementia who is part of the team that decides who is going to be working with the people in dementia. This should be the standard, right? And you need to select the people well, and you have to create the conditions for success, and everything is true. And then they give this example. There was a candidate who came for the interview, and she went through the interview, and the entire team voted to hire her, okay? The person with dementia said, I disagree, and let me tell you why. She is an expert interviewer. She said all the right things, but her nonverbals were not there. And I think that you should reconsider it. They did not hire that woman.
You know what? When I got my tentative dementia diagnosis in 2012, the first thing I did is I went to the dementia unit here in our town and volunteered, and they would not accept me as a volunteer. They said that I needed to be a patient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very common. Harry, you had a comment you wanted to make?
This is a wonderful topic. The best dementia mentors that you could ever get is people that are living the disease. I know when I speak at a lot of nursing facilities and nursing homes, and the one asked me what training I had for speaking to somebody with dementia. I says, well, I've had 12 years of studying. You know, people don't get the concept that we live in this disease are the best mentors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Paulan's a good example of that. She knows because she does mentoring, and we could go into a facility, and we could be doing so much good, talking to people, listening to them, and things like that.
You know, I'm going to throw my 2 cents in here on this because I just, one, I want to say that anything that is done is a plus. You know, if it is any of it the perfect answer? No. Is there a silver bullet? No. And I think we need multiple alternatives. So the Dementia Village is the concept. And again, I, like the rest of you, I haven't visited it. I've just seen the video, and when I record this and put it on YouTube, I'm going to put links to the Dementia Village video. I'm also going to put a link to Daniela Greenwood works for Our Care over in the UK, and they have a fabulous concept where they don't segregate people because they want people to volunteer. They want people to be how they term it. They have everybody at every stage of life still has a right to be a citizen. They have a right to be purposeful. They have a right to help others and to be helped. And it's a 10-15 minute video, but it's just like when I do this in conferences, I ask people, who wants to live there? And everyone's like, sign me up, sign me up. Because it was kind of what Elon was talking about is this acceptance and people melding, or what Harry was talking about, truly knowing your neighbor. And, you know, as a society, I think we've really gotten away from that. So the Dementia Village concept is great. People love it. There's been some really heated discussions I know that I've been in where people say, it's not right to, you know, put people away, you know, kind of like we're putting them on an island. But yet everybody who is there is very happy. The families are happy. The people with dementia are happy. Everyone feels safe, included. Yet they, you know, people who don't have dementia have to leave, you know, every day. But staff is there playing this role, and so it's one form of support, and it's meeting their needs. And you know, they are there till the day they die. You know, they take them from whatever stage they walk into until death, which here in the U.S. isn't always the case. You know, sometimes people have to move as they progress. So I think one of the first things each of us has to come to grips with is to say, you know, there isn't a right or wrong. Thank you for trying. I might not agree with the concept, but thank you for trying. I really believe that's the first step. I think the second step is to get out of each other's way and stop arguing about who's better in terms of competition, and really honing in on the fact that every community is going to be different because we're all individuals. You know, we have different cultural needs, personal needs, lifestyle needs. I mean, we all have different financial abilities. And so as a society as a whole, we have to take that into consideration. And again, there's not a silver bullet. There's not this little pocket we can just slip everybody into and say, oh, this is going to work for everybody. And I think part of the problem out there is, especially in the U.S. here, is that tends to be the mode of business. That's how we crack a nut and say, you know, we're gonna meet this need, and this is a huge need with a variety of sub needs within it. And so then with the Dementia Friendly Communities, you know, I've been involved in both grassroots and some more structured models. Both are very good, are doing some great things. Elon had mentioned Alzheimer's, Act on Alzheimer's here in Minnesota, which has now gone to the Dementia Friendly Communities, which is a more structured approach with surveys and various things. And then the grassroots model, you know, we started one in Watertown, which was the first one in the U.S. I've been involved in Roseville and several other communities. I think the key with any of the communities, and I'm a firm believer, this is where my silver bullet is if I have to pick one, it's aligning with people with passion that want to do it because it's the right thing to do, because it does good for others and it makes them feel good. It's not about dollars and cents, which again goes against every business instinct anybody has, but it really is about coming together as a community to do something good for somebody else and getting out of our own way and meeting our needs first. And there's a lot of creative things going on, and that's one of the things I love about my job, is I'm able to speak to people all around the world at all different levels, from individual people who might have dementia, might be a family member, who might just be a neighbor or friend, or decided this is a passion they have, or they might be a business or a church, or I mean, it's endless who wants to get involved, and we have to welcome everybody into the circle. And we have to let them use their skills and their talents in their way to better the world. Instead of saying, you know, like with Truth, nope, you can't do that, you know, and look at what we're blocking. You know, we're blocking huge pieces of success by telling people no. We have to encourage people to try. And, you know, I'm not a big person of shame, but if we're going to shame anything, we should shame ourselves for not trying. You know, we should be embarrassed of not trying. So that's kind of my 2 cents in terms of the difference. I think becoming dementia friendly comes in all different forms. It's something that I personally believe no one has an excuse not to be dementia friendly, because there is no thing too small that won't be appreciated. You know, and it could just be smiling at somebody or saying hi, or just being more patient or giving somebody more time. It doesn't have to cost you anything, you know, or it can be big and elaborate. But I think those smaller steps help us look at becoming more fluid, help us look at how simple this can really be, that it doesn't have to be as complicated as a lot of people think that it has to be. Because it's bottom line, it's about our relationship. So I'm stepping off my podium. True, you had a comment.
I think that a big thing in dementia friendly really needs to be that there's more than physical, and that actually there's more than physical, there's more than social. There's the body, the social, the psychological, in other words, communication and stuff with how we feel about ourselves and how that interacts with the whole thing. But a big thing that isn't addressed at all, and Harry just brought it up last week, is spiritual.
Yep.
And that is completely neglected from what I've seen in the dementia friendly perspective. It's just completely forgotten.
Yeah. And it's starting to be addressed, though. I mean, you've got like Us Against Alzheimer's that has Clergy Against Alzheimer's. You've got the Dementia Friendly Communities where, you know, some of the churches are really coming together in synagogues and different religions saying this is a need. Where, you know, even 3 years ago, I can tell you, I talked to a lot of spiritual advisors, and they didn't want to talk about this. This was spooky. They didn't know how to address it. And then there were others that were really progressive. Most were, you know, it's not an issue, or, you know, they just don't come to church anymore, or, you know, whatever it was. But that's really, really changing. Yeah. Elon, go ahead.
So, well, like relationships, as you said, Lori, it's actually becoming more important to people with dementia as the disease progresses, the close, trusting relationship. This is what Daniela Greenwood says. This is the #1 thing we put in our mission statement. And it's not just another component. It's the #1 thing. And then related to spirituality, it becomes many times, spirituality can be defined in many ways, and every person perceives it differently, and that's okay. But it's becoming very important to people with dementia as they progress with the disease. To some, maybe not for others, and that's okay. But we are not doing a good enough job at incorporating this. It should be an integral part of any conversation and care, provision of care at home and in long-term care homes. There are great books actually out there coming out. I can share a citation of them. They are Act on Alzheimer's. We at the Jewish Community Task Force, we gave training for rabbis because there was a clear need in synagogues. And so there's a lot of need to address this issue, but I'm afraid that it's not being addressed enough. And Judy Berry will be the one who will say that she always made sure that the spirituality piece will be part of her program at what she used to work as a founder, CEO of Lakeview Ranch, Minnesota. She's not there anymore. She's with Dementia Specialist Consulting, but she always made sure that this will be an integral part of the program, recognizing the need of people with dementia at all stages of the disease.
Mm-hmm. Harry, you're shaking your head. There's something in there that needs to come out.
That's one of my goals through United Against Dementia. I would like the church to get more involved in dementia. I would like to see the church visiting care facilities and sitting down, listening to the people and advising them spiritually. There's when you go into a care facility, you don't have anybody to talk to about those types of things. Now, every now and then somebody might come in to visit, but personally, I live my religion every day. You almost have to have somebody on staff that can fill in those needs, and that's some of the things that I'm trying very hard to push the idea of having the churches get more involved in their local care facilities so they can visit them and give them the spiritual needs that they need.
Yeah, I did a study in Massachusetts for 10 months, and they were one of the best places in Massachusetts, assisted living for people with dementia, and they had a position of a clergy, and he would come every day. I mean, he would come in very often and hold groups and do one-on-one sessions and every stage of the disease. And if somebody dies, they did a very respectful celebration of their lives. Not taking them from the back door that is often being done. And then if you're a resident there, you think, oh, tomorrow it's me. They're not going to even recognize me. He instilled a sense of compassion between the residents. They thought about ways how to nurture compassion among residents, how to help each other. This is critical. I mean, how many communities in nursing homes or have that position in place to make sure that those needs will be met in a structured way?
Yeah, well, and I think in a lot of ways, you'll see different communities have several different types of religious preferences, and pastors and things come in, or rabbis, but a lot of it is doing a sermon or maybe saying a prayer. It's really not having a conversation in terms of spirituality, and I think that's what I'm hearing is missing. They're present, but we want them to take the next step. And, all of this is going slower than any of us would like. But yet I look back 5 and 10 years ago, and I mean, we're on the fast track, even though it seems slow compared to where we were. Things that we're really gaining traction. And the more conversation we can have about this, and the more that people can share conversations like what we're doing and others are doing, the faster it's going to spread. The more ideas are going to be shared. the more sparks are going to be ignited. True, you had a comment?
I think that's another thing that people aren't listening to people with dementia symptoms in the whole picture, because how many of us can follow a sermon now? I mean, I can't. You can? Oh, no. I crave the music. I crave some of the, what's the term? Not routine, but some of the, you know, procedure.
Ritual, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, rituals. But really, I think the most important thing is the one-on-one contact that is necessary at this stage, because we can't follow the verbal blah, 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 blah. It just becomes a bunch of sounds.
Yeah, so we talked about it in the Acton Alzheimer's Jewish Community Task Force as we were working with rabbis. How can you adapt current existing sessions in a synagogue or in a church to make it the right length, to make sure that the physical environment is supportive, to make sure that the sound is works for people with dementia, to make sure that you sit them in a place that if they want to leave, they can leave easily, to make sure that that you use music that is meaningful to them, to use the symbols that are hardwired in their brain for 60, 70 years of really religion and spirituality that they connect with immediately. You know, we have stories of people with behavioral expressions and aggressive behaviors, but if an insightful CNA decided, and that's actually happened, to take them to the temple suddenly and to be involved in a meaningful, personally meaningful service, then she's not agitated and she's not aggressive anymore. She is just being in something with familiar that is tailored to her needs. How do we create synagogue? How do we encourage congregations and churches where a person with dementia in mid-stage stands up and down because it's hard for them to understand what's being said, and we're still accepting it. We're still accepting it as a community. We're expecting it to happen, and that's okay. And somebody lends a hand and provides the reassurance because that's a dementia-friendly synagogue or a church. So all those things, instead of the fear or why you're bringing her here and all those things that happen, we know that happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go to Paulan because we haven't heard from her, and then I'll go to you, Harry. Okay, Paulan?
I just wanted to mention, we talked a little bit about the importance of music, and I think that in this community that this is really key. Music is very helpful because not only does it bring back memories, the songs are very repetitive, so it's very easy to keep in track with the songs. And so I think that that's a key point too, is to have that in there.
Good. Harry?
What I just wanted to bring up the point that no longer do doctors make home visits. You know, you have to go to them to be treated. And I view the church the same way. Very few of them make home visits. Now, there's exceptions, I know, but I'm talking in general. And you hear so much about people leaving the church. And I often wonder, is the church leaving us? Do they expect us to come to them?
It is interesting. You know, one of the things that I've picked up through this conversation is that communities, Aylan, I'm going to turn your, oh, you planted again. I was going to just turn your video off. One of the things that I've been hearing is that a lot of what you're saying would be helpful. We used to do a long time ago.
Yes.
And we don't do it anymore. You know, we've gotten away from doing it, from the doctors coming and you know, or the personal bankers or the clergy, or just knowing our neighbors. I mean, those were, I mean, growing up for me, those were all things that happened. Yeah, you know, and it was a very different time than what we're living in right now. And so, and I've heard this from others before, going, why did we stop that? You know, why did that stop? And I think a lot of it probably has come down to money, you know, and staffing issues. True, did you have a comment?
Yes, on the subject of music, another way that I think people figure they are dementia friendly without really being dementia friendly is they know music is important, so they push music at us. But some of us, like me, I can't handle music, multiple instruments or high contrast in harmonies. Really, I love music. I have always been very, very musical. But now I don't enjoy the same kind of music. I can't process it. It just makes me more agitated. Mm-hmm. What I need now is solo instrument, solo voice. Now almost all of my music is a cappella. And people don't listen to the voice of persons with dementia enough to realize music isn't an answer. It still is very individual with the symptoms.
Excellent points.
I think you have to match the music to the person. I just read an article in a newspaper of a lady that was in her end stage, and everybody thinks the end stage is goodbye. And they played music, and the woman was sitting in her chair with her eyes closed, not moving, except for her foot. He was tapping her foot. And they were playing music of her era, the big band sounds, you know, things like that. Now, if you play somebody music, modern music, they're not going to appreciate that because we can't handle the sounds of it. But if you give me music back in my time, I love it.
Mm-hmm. Lori, I want to share a couple of books about spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is called, I don't know if you can see, Spiritual Care for Persons with Dementia, Fundamentals for Pastoral Practice. It's a collection of articles from different writers sharing different perspective on this issue. And then there's another book which is called A Guide to the Spiritual Dimension of Care for People with Alzheimer's Disease and Related Dementia, More Than Body, Brain, and Breath by Eileen Shami. Two wonderful, wonderful books. And then there's another one actually that I heard about more recently. It's called Where Two Worlds Touch, A Spiritual Journey Through Alzheimer's Disease by Jade Angelica. That it came out, I think, more recently. So there are resources out there, but the question is how do we take it and we encourage communities to actually implement it.
Yeah, Us Against Alzheimer's, the Clergy Against Alzheimer's put out a book too, and I want to say it has 17 different religions. I might be off on that number. And it was really interesting because I remember reading one of the reviews. I want to say it was a rabbi said he was shocked, or maybe it was pastor, maybe have it reversed, shocked at what he learned through somebody else's religious practices and how it helped him. And it was like, how cool was that, you know, by merging all these and saying, you know, what's comfortable for the person and being able to learn, you know, from one another's practices instead of being, again, afraid, you know, of them, by opening ourselves up and being willing to learn and be willing to say we don't know all the answers, but we're here to learn and we're here to help and support. You know, that's how we create friendships. That's how we deepen relationships, by saying, no, it's different and I'm scared, and kind of getting into that whole stigma. That's how we create enemies and develop that fear. And, you know, that is not something that does any of us any good. So I think we really have to look at what's what's in everyone's best interest, because especially with dementia, I mean, we don't know who's going to be next. You know, who's going to get diagnosed next. I mean, it could be us, it could be someone we love, it might be, you know, our neighbor next door. You know, there are no boundaries to this, and we're at a critical stage all around the world at this point. This disease is moving much faster than our support systems, than our government systems, than us as individual people trying to bring people together and be supportive. And we've got to increase that shift to meet the demand. And it's happening. Again, I don't think it's happening as fast as we'd all like, but I think we have to be supportive of what everybody is bringing to the table, and we have to be willing to talk about what others are doing, because, you know, it might give somebody else a spark to do something different, or maybe something similar. But either way, it's gonna help people. And that's the bottom line, is how do we ignite this fire? And, you know, it gets down to really accepting and sharing. And, you know, when we review things and analyze, sometimes we look at what's wrong. And I'm a firm believer that, you know, if we're going to do that, we also have to look at what's working. And we also have to look at how can we improve what's not working.
Lori, it's very interesting you mentioned that. When I did my study for 10 months in 2 care homes for people with dementia in Massachusetts, I also, beyond the direct observations and the interviews with staff and the focus groups, and I also recorded what the staff are writing in their communication log. And they're very compassionate, caring, and, you know, they're good people who are doing their best with their resources that they had. And many of them were fantastic care partners. But when you look at the communication log, every setting has different name, what they have to write when it happens, something, whether it's behavioral or functional, it was rare to see a positive note. It was rare to see. So what happens is that we are perpetuating the pathology and the negative perception and the biomedical, instead of, there are a lot of things that were very positive, but do we make sure that the staff has the time, first of all, by staffing levels and training and awareness, and how to do the documentation, to write things that work? They are as important, they are more important, and what works, and what are the remaining abilities of these individuals. And we know that there are many until the late stages of the disease. But it was rare to see a single positive note in the communication log.
Yeah, and I see that when I go out talking with communities. I'm sure you guys do too. And one of the things, you know, I always hear is, well, we have to put that in, you know, for the surveyors, you know, because they're being watched, the quality control, and, you know, we have to change the surveyors, and that's their excuse. And I'm like, well, then let's be part of the movement to change their mindset. Because, you know what, they probably don't believe joy is possible. They don't believe in the depth of the relationships that can be. We have to document that. We have to show them those possibilities. And, you know, and same with families. You know, families have been taught for many, many years, you know, a person with dementia is senile. They, you know, they can't partake anymore. You know, that's been ingrained in our society, and we have to change that verbiage, and we have to show that, you know, through these video sessions, through all of the work you guys are doing, getting you at conferences and out there, so people go, oh, they can see your brilliance, you know, and what you have to offer. And you know, it's a big mountain to climb, but we're pushing each other up there, you know, and we're making headway. And one of these days we'll be sliding down the other side. But, you know, I encourage us there too, not to get too cocky, because I don't think we should ever be done. I think if we are truly innovators, if we're truly going to meet the needs of others, we have to be fluid. We cannot get stuck in saying, I figured it out. You know, this is what works. And even though if it works today, it might not work tomorrow. It might not work 5 minutes from now. And that's okay. That's okay.
Endless journey. Yeah. Endless journey.
Yeah. And so, you know, there'll always be plenty to do. I think organizations and individuals alike have to stop fighting for competition. There's plenty out there. You know, we have to stop blocking one another. We have to start working truly collaboratively, not just using those words, not saying that we're collaborative, but actually truly lifting one another up, reaching out, utilizing one another's skills and knowledge, and leveraging that to, you know, come up with even better things, better ways.
Lori, I agree with you, but I think there's a challenge, and yet I believe that you acknowledge that there's a lot of places like long-term care homes that are still operating under a business model, and their goal is to fill. They're also caring for people. They're probably doing a good job, and but there's a lot of push and pressure to fill beds, to fill up beds, and that is part of the local competition, and that has direct negative effects often to the quality of care. You take people that shouldn't be there, and that happens a lot.
Yeah. And the sad part is, and Harry, I'll go to you next, is the sad part is when you're motivated by money, you're never providing as great a service as you could be. And when you are motivated by service, that word of mouth will spread, and it's undeniable. And people just come. You know, they don't come overnight. They come because you deserve it. You know, and you've built a reputation of care, and that's very, very different. But man, the loyalty, you know, and the team that you build by doing that is magnificent. Harry, you had a comment?
Yeah, we have a long way to go, Lori. And now why I say that is if you listen to the presidential debates, you will hear a lot of comments that reference the stigmas and myths that go with dementia. And that is so sad when our leaders of the country can't get over that stigma. That just proves that we have such a long, long way to go.
Yeah, agree. True?
In my picture, the one thing that could make the biggest difference, the most effective difference, would be integrating the voice of persons with dementia more into the whole picture. Like you were saying, being involved in the hiring process, being involved in different parts of the whole. And because we're the people who have experience, no, all the symptoms aren't anywhere near the same, but there are enough similarities that we have more of an idea than anybody else on how, never mind, it's gone.
No, I think that's a great point, that people with dementia have to be integrated into the leadership roles. And that might mean a committee, it might mean a board. And as much as it's nice to say that there's the token one, I don't want any of you to be looked at as a token. Okay, we've pacified. I don't want you on their committee to pacify a politically correct look. I want you to be on a committee because people really see and understand the value. I don't want to see the excuse of, well, they might not be able to participate at this level. Well, you know what? That's okay. There's still a base of knowledge, and you're not going to know what level somebody can participate in because you're all different, and it hits different skill sets differently. So, you know, work with it, acknowledge it, support it. We have to do that. True?
And a lot of that is the other people involved learning how to communicate.
Yep.
That's big, huge.
Yep. And that's critical. If they're going to be the leaders of this cause, they have to understand that. And, you know, that might mean that we have to slow down a little bit. You know, that might mean we have to speak a little clearer and communicate a little differently. You know, that's okay. You know, that really is okay. It's not going to harm anybody in the process with, you know, these communication changes that we're talking about, with these spiritual needs, with the emotional needs. It's all called respect. And we've lost that in society on a lot of levels, not just dementia. Elan, go ahead.
I know you probably need to wrap up soon. I just want to make an announcement about an award that a colleague of ours just received. So Martin Fisher, who is with, he is in Montana. He collaborates with 11 care farms with over 70 clients, and over, I think 12 of them have dementia. It's called Flathead Care Farming. He also calls it Life-Side Care Farming. And he was on the show several months ago. He just received the Mother Lifeways Institute of Aging 2015 award for Promising Practices Award.
Oh, cool.
For his program.
Yeah, we had him on
exciting. Right?
Yeah, if people want to hear more, we had him on the radio show, Alzheimer's Speaks, and you can just put in care farms, and I'm sure will pop up. We are going to go ahead and wrap up. Harry, do you have any last comments?
No, I think this was a very good, informative show, and I'm so glad to be part of it.
Yeah. True. Anything from you? Okay. And Paulan, how about you?
I'm good.
You're good. Elan, any other comments that you want to make?
I'm just happy that I was able to make it today. So I'm always thrilled to be here. So it's
yeah. Very interesting conversation. Hopefully we've gleaned some light for people when this gets out, kind of what the differences are between dementia-friendly communities and dementia-friendly villages, and what people can do as individuals and as groups as a whole. And again, I just want to thank everyone for participating, and we'll see you at the end, let's see, not the end of the, yeah, at the end of the month here. I always forget to look up the date here, so let me go do that quickly. And it will also be on, so it'll be the 22nd. And I should have known that date. I got a lot of stuff going on then. So have a great time. Again, I'll try to get this posted tomorrow, and if not sooner. And please feel free to pass this on. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.